All right, on today's edition, we're going to be talking about life and politics, navigating through the fishbowl. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
It's Mauricio Mejia Live. Entertainment guru, Silicon Valley entrepreneur, author, and speaker. It's Mauricio Mejia Live.
Welcome back to Mauricio Mejia Live. We're here inside of Studio B, located in downtown San Jose, the heart of Silicon Valley. And today, I'm very excited and honored to have a very special guest, someone that I have been following since I moved to San Jose back in 1996 when I was a little young buck and going to San Jose State. I had moved from Los Angeles to the Bay Area, and I settled in San Jose. And at the time, I had no idea of politics, and I got exposed to it at during that time. And it's a big honor, and it's a pleasure to introduce former Mayor or Honorable Ron Gonzales. Thank you for making the time to be here today. I really do appreciate you being here with me today.
Well, thank you so much, Mauricio. I really appreciate it. Just call me Ron. You know better than that.
Well, and thank you. Yes, I just want to make sure that the audience out there knows that there's always got to be levels of respect given to those that deserve it, that have earned it. So that's why I did it. So
I understand.
Yeah.
You know, and when I was mayor, I insisted on people calling me by my first name because I would tell them, look, my name is Ron. My title is mayor.
Right.
So please, I even remember the lady who would clean my office every night. She would come in, oh, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt you. No, come on in. And don't call me Mr. Mayor. Call me Ron. 8 years. Never worked.
Yeah. Well,
thank you.
You've earned it, and you deserve that level of respect. And, hey, thank you so much again for making the time out of your busy schedule to be here. And we're going to learn today what it takes to be in all the different levels of positions that you've been. I know in our notes we didn't it wasn't listed, but you came from the private sector. Right, and then jumped into and I'd like to learn that. I'd like to know. We're going to go deep. We want to go from I don't want to say from the beginning, cuando eras un chico, but I want to know what was the inspiration that got you into the political world, but where you came from, what's the background behind all of that, and who were those people that guided you through that? Yeah. Because when you think of politics, you think of, wow, that guy must be crazy to get into politics. So
there's probably some truth to that too, but my story is similar to a lot of elected officials at the local level. And, born and raised in the Bay Area, born in San Francisco, raised in Sunnyvale. My dad came out of the Navy in the early 1950s, took his GI Bill and bought a home in Sunnyvale, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for $12,500.
How much again?
$12,500. He was a Teamster truck driver, so I'm a Teamster Brat. I was raised in Sunnyvale when this place was nothing. I mean, 1954, and I'm delighted to say, Mauricio, that home still is in our family. I have one of my sisters living there.
Nice.
And this year marks 70 years since my parents bought that house. And, so I saw.
And that house is not worth $12,000.
No, the place next door sold for $1.3 million last year. So
there you go.
It's crazy. But, so I saw this valley go from the Valley of Heart's Delight to eventually Silicon Valley, right? And I saw all the iterations, the different types of industries that were created here and kind of worked themselves out of jobs into new industries and into new inventions, into all kinds of things. So I've had this wonderful experience of living in Silicon Valley and seeing it evolve and re-involve, into new industries and new businesses and new inventions. And now we're into AI, so who knows what's next? It's just going to be another leap. So, having been raised in a working class family, blue collar, my dad was very, very involved in the community. And specifically things that tended to be around civil rights.
Okay.
And was very supportive of the Farm Workers Union and Cesar Chavez. And I remember going with my dad to the local Safeway store on Saturdays and walking the picket line, educating grocery shoppers not to buy lettuce, not to buy grapes, all those types of things. And what I attribute, I think, my life of public service to is my father.
Okay.
My father was my role model, my hero, and he he instilled in each one of his 5 children a lot of life principles. And one of the principles that just stuck in my head was his belief, and my belief, that I've carried out in my life, is that we all have a responsibility. Yes. We all have a responsibility to find some way. And he never dictated the way you should do it, but find some way to improve the lives of others. Now, I'm delighted to say that my siblings did that, and I did that, and I found for me the best way to do that was serving in an elective office. So, I started my career. I ended up working at Hewlett-Packard way back in the day when not only did companies like HP produce their own products, they did it right here in Silicon Valley.
That's right.
You didn't have to have a college degree to work in tech. You could get hired into the manufacturing line and work your way up the ladder, and get college degrees reimbursed by the company. Well, that's all changed.
I was going to say,
those days are gone, right?
Times have changed.
And unfortunately, we lost a lot of the diversity that the industry once had. Women, minorities that would come in, a different door and work their way up, no longer have that ability.
Wow.
So I'm working at Hewlett-Packard, and I decide, I'm living in Sunnyvale, in my hometown, and I decide to run for city council. And, again, with this mission of...
How old are you, Ron, when you decided to jump the cliff?
28 years old.
Okay.
My first elective office. Unfortunately, I didn't win.
Okay.
But I stuck to my guns. I worked really, really hard in the community. And 2 years later, I got elected to the Sunnyvale City Council, and that was 1979.
So you didn't learn your lesson the first time, how you just...
No. My lesson was to teach them a lesson.
There
right?
you go. All right. I like that. All right.
Yeah. That's hey. I didn't last 24 years in public life without firing back, right? So I get elected to the Sunnyvale City Council, and in those days, that city council used to choose the mayor amongst themselves.
Okay.
So I was chosen by my colleagues on 2 different occasions to serve as mayor for a 1-year term, and so I did that. Did my 2 4-year terms and termed out. I'm still working at Hewlett-Packard because that kind of...
Oh, it wasn't... They were in full-time...
There's not a full-time job.
Okay.
Most of the cities in Santa Clara County are not full-time.
Did you get paid, or was it volunteer?
It was kind of stipend.
Okay.
I probably spent all the money on gas running around the city, But then it kind of like, what am I going to do next? Should I, go back to work full-time in the private sector and... be happy with that? And I said, I don't think I'm done yet. And I decided to run for the County Board of Supervisors, the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors. In 1988, I ran a year-long campaign, raised $1 million. Luckily, I get elected, and I'm the first Latino to get elected to the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors.
Really quick, before we jump there, were you the first Latino in Sunnyvale?
I was.
Okay.
Every office I held.
All right.
I was the first Latino. I kind of broke the ceiling.
Nice.
The glass ceiling. And so I serve as county supervisor. That is a full-time job. So I left my job at HP, went off to the county for 8 years. And again, term limits had kicked in. By this time, my family and I had moved from Sunnyvale to San Jose.
Okay.
So I was living in San Jose for about 6 years. And I said, well, is that it? So should I go back to the private sector and make a lot of money and be happy? I said, no, I think I've got some more to give. And
wow. Okay.
Then I decided to run for mayor of San Jose.
Got it.
Just a little job.
Well, we'll get to that little job. But during your tenure over as the county supervisor, what were some of the accomplishments? What were some of the things that you broke? I mean, being the first Latino, let's just say Sunnyvale, right? From council to mayor, but the first Latino county supervisor?
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's very large.
I like how you just kind of flew right through that one, but really I'd love to hear and share with the world out there, like some of those accomplishments, because that's big, Ron.
Yeah. Well, it was a lot of hard work. The county government is a tough level of government. I call it the most invisible layer of government because most people, most voters don't really understand county government. They understand what their city hall does, what their mayor does, but they and the state representatives and so forth. But they really don't know what the county does. And the county is really the social safety net for a lot of families, low-income families. So one of the things I worked on at that time, when I first got elected to the Board of Supervisors, they ran the county transit system, what is now known as VTA.
Okay.
So all types of long-term planning had gone into effect for future light rail lines and other things. And I realized in looking at these studies and these plans for the long term, the east side of San Jose was not ever going to get served. And I said, that's just not right. You know, when you look at the most transit-dependent families and individuals, they're in east side San Jose or the East Valley.
We're talking 1988 too, so we've already gone through a lot of transitions of farmlands in the Silicon Valley.
Yeah, we're well on our way.
We fast forward, and I mean, but there's still a high concentration of people, working class people,
absolutely,
that were positioned or living in the East
Valley area,
in the East Valley.
Well, in fact, in those days, I'm sure that's still the case. That if you look at that corridor east of 101. East of 880, all the way up to Milpitas, that kind of Milpitas all the way down to Evergreen. At that time, it represented about 50% of the daily bus ridership in the entire county. So, you know, that basically says those folks need transportation, and they needed to get to the doctor, to work, to school, to whatever. It's not a choice for them. They're not making a choice of getting in their car, getting on the bus. They're getting on the bus because that's the only choice they have.
Right.
So I worked really hard to get what is now the Tasman line over to Alum Rock area, and will soon be all the way down to the shopping center in Evergreen, the big shopping center.
Eastridge
Shopping Center. Yeah, so that's now underway.
Wait, so are they putting a
light rail line?
Wow.
Right down the middle of Capitol Expressway.
Wow.
And that was first put in the works in 1989.
What
Spring of 1989.
Where did they drop the ball on that?
It takes forever to get the money for these things, and the priority. So that's happened. Then I also started what has now turned out to be a lifetime campaign to get BART to downtown San Jose, and that's now at least into Berryessa, and we're now working on the extension, or they're working on the extension. I'm cheering from the sidelines to get that BART train through downtown San Jose over to the Diridon train station and eventually to Santa Clara.
I remember growing up as when I would come and visit my father or family here in San Francisco in the Bay Area. I remember when they were talking about expanding from Daly City to SFO Airport, and that took about 30 years if not longer. But I think it was about 30 years. I'm like, I remember when I caught probably the tail end. I'm like, they finally built that thing? I was a kid when they were talking about that.
One of the most interesting books I ever read was a book that's about this big. I mean, it's gigantic. It's the original BART study, circa 1951, about the same year I was born, right? This thing, you look at this thing, and these people, they must have been on drugs of some kind.
Yeah.
Because they were so futuristic, looking at, imagine in the early 1950s when Californians are buying cars and gas is probably 15 cents a gallon or whatever it was. These people are talking about a train that's going to go under the bay.
Yes.
You know, and so that's really futuristic. That's really thinking generations ahead. And that's why I've always called the BART project a generational project. It's going to take an entire generation to get it done.
Yeah, interesting that you said that. I'm working with a group. I'm working with the new executive director for the World Academy of Arts and Science. The gentleman was introduced to me, and I had a conversation with him about 2 weeks ago. And they bring these global thinkers. I mean, it was Albert Einstein, Rob Oppenheimer. These are the kind of founders of this academy or this organization. And they had a lot of other great thinkers. And they said that they have these summits and these meetings, and they're thinking 250 years ahead. And I made the joke, just trying to be funny guy on the call. And I said, well, you know, we're trying to fix our problems today, and you guys are already thinking 250 years. But it's what you just said, that there's groups and pockets of people that are thinking not today, not 10 years, but the future. Right? I mean, who would have thought? I mean, the guys that created Star Trek and created these other cartoons were thinking so far away, and now we have iPhones. Now we're talking through these little gadgets, and now we're doing things that when we grew up, we're like, what the heck? So
and we're right in the middle of it.
Yeah,
we are smack dab in the center of creativity and innovation right here in Silicon Valley.
Amen. I've been working. I've had the honor of and the privilege of being surrounded by 4 great people right now that are working in that movement of changing specifically the downtown core. You know, one of them, Tony Ariola, he worked with you. And he's mentoring me along with Mark Lazzarini, Gary, and Jeff. And when I hear the vision, and you're brought up in a lot of the conversations because you made a big impact on Tony, and obviously just the stuff that he shares. And so I learn. It's just amazing to see the transformation that we're going through. And one of the things that I've helped them also re-recognize or reignited in there is that San Jose, downtown San Jose, is the heart of the Silicon Valley. We are, and I don't say the capital of Silicon Valley. I say no, it's the global tech capital of the world. Because what you just said right now, we are in the middle of it. These are where the great thinkers, the great minds. This is where I want to say everything was founded here. I mean, going from HP.
Yeah. Well,
Intel. I mean, all the big.
Yeah. If it wasn't
boys.
Founded, it's going to be founded here. I mean, you just look at even more so now when I talk to a lot of young people. I just had lunch with a young man. He's 23 years old, Latino, and he started his own company 2 years ago. He was 21 years old. Yeah. He's already got 30 employees, headquartered right down here in downtown San Jose, and he's an expert on AI. He's got a PhD in AI. Young Latino guy.
I heard that there was a report that we are in this little text messaging thread, and San Jose was reported we are the highest of AI, leading the AI next to San Francisco and other cities that they compared us to. You can't even get close to us. So San Jose ranked number 1.
But if you look back in the history, like my whole life, I look back, that's always been the case. We've always been the front of the cutting edge, right? And all the way back to the 60s when, Lockheed Missiles and Space was creating spaceships to go to the moon and, unfortunately, weapons for the Vietnam War and so forth. So, all those engineers, once we landed a man on the moon and we ended the war, they had to find new things. So they went out and created the next generation of products and services.
So let's jump from county now to the City of San Jose. I tell people, born in San Francisco, raised in Los Angeles, but educated here in San Jose, Silicon Valley. So I tell everyone, I got the best of all 3 worlds. I said, you can't get any better than this. I got global cities all instilled in me. 3rd largest city in California. We're going to say 10th largest. I don't even want to get into that debate with anybody. 10th largest city in the United States. First Latino mayor.
Yeah,
City of San Jose.
My only regret is my hero and my role model. My dad didn't get the opportunity to see that. He passed away when I was on the County Board of Supervisors very quickly. And but a tremendous amount of pride. And I just worked really, really hard for 8 years on the things that I promised the voters I would work on. Making strong and safe neighborhoods. I was coming in.
Sounds kind of familiar recently.
Exactly.
I'm like, huh.
Well, the smart mayors focus on the things that people care about. And
Amen.
Those are the things that happen in their neighborhoods, right? So, I came into office after a period of a lot of investment in downtown and so forth. But there was a very strong feeling as I knocked on people's doors and walked precincts that they didn't feel part of San Jose. They felt that City Hall pretty much just focused on downtown. And that might have been a fair criticism. So I came in and created a number of initiatives that focused on the things that people care about. As I used to tell city workers, they had to understand that the average San Jose resident evaluates city services, based on when they go out to pick up their newspaper in the driveway, right? Remember those days?
Oh yeah.
When you pick up
I used to have a paper route when I was a kid.
Right. So they'd pick up the papers you would throw. And as they pick up the paper, they look around their neighborhood. They do the survey. Yeah. Is it clean? Is there litter? Is there graffiti on the fence across the street? All these really basic kinds of things. How safe do they feel? Remember those days?
Yes.
In 2 years, we made, working with our police and fire and other first responding units in the city and beyond, We made San Jose the safest big city.
That's right.
In America.
What year was this now?
That was 2001.
So I moved. I moved to I started San Jose State 1995, 96. Yes. So you were not in office then. You got into
99.
office 99, and I think it was it Susan Hammer?
Susan Hammer was
that's
my
right.
predecessor.
Yes. So Susan Hammer was there, and then I remember the it was just interesting times in San Jose. Interesting times, and
well,
then,
you know, and it's hard to realize that that's about 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
You know? And it was something of great
23
pride,
years.
great pride to people in San Jose to say,
Yes.
hey, you know, we feel safe.
Yes.
And it's not just a data thing.
Yeah.
It's how you personally feel. Do
That's
you
right.
feel comfortable walking out in your neighborhood? Are you going to fear that your car is going to get stolen from your driveway in the middle of the day? That stuff happened after I left office.
Yes.
You know, and very, very quickly.
Yes.
And once
to agree.
once you lose that moniker, it's hard to get it back.
That's right.
I know they're still trying.
It's unfortunate, and we'll dive a little bit into that. We can have a whole other session on just that. But I do remember coming to San Jose. I do remember that time, and I did feel safe in San Jose. I was living at San Jose State in my dorms, in my fraternity house. I felt safe in San Jose. It was fun in San Jose.
Well, and that takes a lot of different angles. Not just police and fire, but things like graffiti. We got rid of graffiti.
Yeah.
You know, we enlisted 5,000 San Jose residents who volunteered their free time to wipe out graffiti in their neighborhood.
Wow.
We trained them how to do it. We gave them supplies, and guess what? They got rid of it.
Yeah.
And got rid of litter and all these things. So, you know, these are the things that mean stuff to people.
Absolutely.
You know, having libraries in neighborhoods that never had libraries before.
Yeah.
Having fire stations that didn't, you know, in neighborhoods that didn't have fire stations before. All these things go into making up a safe, strong, and healthy neighborhood. We
need to put all of this information into a book and then sell it as the Mayor's Guide, the Future's Mayor's Guide, book, the playbook. I mean, because I'll tell you right now, I've heard and seen a lot of the things that you put into play, into action. Back in those days, even though I was still very young and you know my mind was in the private world, I was living a different lifestyle back then, being a young entrepreneur. But the fact that you know a lot more involved today in very community and listening and feeling that pulse, because again, the people that I've surrounded myself with, it's interesting because everything you've said is what is being done now, but what has been neglected for the last 16 years. And we won't dive into that again because I want to that again. Those are conversations that we're gonna eat up all our time here. But thank you though for doing all those things, because it's been recognized. And I think now what we're doing today is we're actually going back to some of the things that were more important, which is community, which is getting engagement, which is thinking about the housing for the future. I mean, now we're seeing those are the things that are most important. And unfortunately, we just had two mayor administrations that just lost focus, and we don't really know what happened in the last 16 years. But we're here today.
That's right.
We appreciate the fact that you can give those nuggets out to them and to us, and it's our job now. We have to take our responsibility to also continue to share that narrative, because I love San Jose. This is my home now. So share with us too what it's like to be the first Latino in all of the different things. I mean, that's something to be very proud of too, as well. I mean, but
yeah, you know, when you accomplish it, you know, it's kind of like that moment after you win the World Series or you win some sports victory. You think back and think about different things that took place. And certainly when I look back on it, and, you know, there have been others that have tried to follow in my footsteps, and they've unfortunately not been successful. But to me, what it points out is how difficult it is. I mean, this is, you know, achieving the office of mayor in a place like San Jose is not easy for anyone.
Yes.
But, you know, when you put a Hispanic last name on the person,
Oof.
And that person has to walk door to door and
Yeah.
meet convince mostly non-Latinos to vote for him.
Yeah.
It was a huge Herculean task. And sometimes,
luckily you're likable. So that was a gift you had, because if you're not likable, it makes the job harder.
But I had some very interesting experiences on people's doorsteps. You can only imagine. I remember one lady looked at me and we talked for about 5-10 minutes. She says, I'm very impressed that you don't speak with an accent. And it's like,
oh, man.
It's like, well, why would I? I was born and raised here,
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of things that you have to overcome.
Yeah.
And luckily I was able to do that. And hopefully like anybody who lays that kind of groundwork, someone will come along and be able to replicate that in some way, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not the same way, but in some way. But I would say, in terms of being, someone of Latino background in that role for the first time, obviously you've got to be the mayor for the whole city.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
It's fair to say that some in the Latino community didn't think I was Latino enough, kind of the Obama factor. But I always focused on the things that I promised the voters I would improve on. So I did that. But there were some things that I'm looking back and I've had a chance to think about them and say, I was glad I was able to do that as a Latino mayor. For example, taking Cesar Chavez's birthday and making that an official city holiday.
Nice.
Which city employees don't work on that birthday.
Yeah.
Right? Hopefully they're out in the community working as Cesar did to improve the lives of others.
Correct.
We then took the park in front of what then was the Fairmont Hotel and named it the Cesar Chavez Plaza. So, two things that, quite frankly, I'm proud of. And then the other thing that, not necessarily for the Latino community, but for another community that's as important in San Jose also, and that's the Japanese American community.
Yes.
I was able to convince the city council to rename our international airport after former mayor and former congressman Norman Y. Mineta.
Yes.
And that's
great guy. Great guy.
Wonderful guy.
Yes.
And a true public servant.
Yes.
He put in so many years, and I know his family was so proud of that. Yeah. And unfortunately, he passed away recently in the last couple of years. But, those kinds of things were kind of icing on the cake.
Yeah.
But all the other stuff I talked about, making the city safe, helping over 500 public school teachers buy their first home in San Jose. In this market, that was unheard of.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
Building 11,000 affordable homes in San Jose in 8 years, more than any city in the state of California, including Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Your former place.
Yeah.
So all these things, I'm proud of.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of the fact that I did it with the majority of the city council, with a great city staff, with a great staff I had a chance to work with in the mayor's office.
Yeah.
And, Mauricio, oftentimes people will ask me, do you miss it? And I say, well, what do you mean by it? And what they mean by it is the power and the influence on. I don't miss that part, but I do miss working with people. My colleagues in the mayor's office, with police officers, firefighters. Every once in a while I'll run into a coffee shop, and if the police officer or firefighter recognizes me, I know they're about to retire.
Yes.
They've been with the department for over 20 years. So, and they usually say, hey, to the younger officers and firefighters, you got to know this guy.
Yeah. Well, they remember the good times too.
Yeah.
And they're doing what they plan for their future, and they're doing their jobs, and when they retire, they're gonna reflect and look back and say, we love those days.
Yeah.
Right. Unfortunately, they don't like it now, and people just the where we're at today. Again, we have to start working on changing the narrative again, and that's going to take all of us.
Well,
right?
and I'll give credit where credit's due. Yeah. Mayor Matt Mahan, I think, has us on the right track. I mean, he's got very limited resources as compared to what I had when I was mayor. But the thing I like about his administration is it's focused.
Yes.
It's got a couple priorities.
Very focused.
You know what they are. You may disagree with them.
Yes.
But he's going to get something done. I don't know how much of it's going to get done, but I just kind of get the feeling from him that he's he's working hard on those things.
Well, I know a couple of his pages in his playbook come from your book, so we got to give you credit for it. One of the things we're gonna kind of shift gears here because a couple of rules here. We don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion, and we have already broken one of the rules. So, on what would be your advice to someone that is thinking about becoming, getting into public office or getting into the political arena, Latino or non-Latino, for all people? Because I want to be inclusive of everybody, because I want the best qualified person to do the best job for what we're looking at. So, what would be your advice?
Well, the first thing would be to read your new book that I co-authored with Guisselle Nuñez. Yes. We're going to talk about that next.
That's right.
Life in the Fishbowl.
That's right.
This is not just because in that book we share the experiences of ourselves as well as other elected officials, and it kind of opens a door that you don't normally see into the life, the public life of a public official. And so read the book. It's a short read. I always joke with my friends. You take it on your next trip to L.A., and by the time the wheels land at LAX, you'll be done with the book. So,
I love all the quotes that were in there. By the way,
yeah,
all the different people that
reviewed the book.
They reviewed the book. Yeah. I was like, one of my favorites, Willie Brown. I was like, oh man, I was like,
the mayor.
There's the man, the man. But I was. Yeah, we're gonna dive into that, but
so I would say that, but
So read the book, pick it up on Amazon, please.
but one of the things we talk about in the book which I think is extremely important, is know your why.
Yes.
Why do you wish to be an elected official? As you can imagine, I talk to a lot of young people and not so young people who are interested in pursuing public service, and I ask them, why do you want to do this? And
I'm going to give you my answer.
Nine times out of 10, they don't have the right answer.
No, absolutely.
They want to do they want to do this project, or they want to make this get done, or whatever. And that's not the way. That's not the reason. Yeah. The reason is bigger than that.
Right.
What's in your heart? Right. What's going to drive you to sit through all those really long, boring government meetings and listen to stuff coming at you from all directions? Mm. You've got to have a bigger why.
Absolutely.
And that's why I said earlier, my why was why my life is dedicated to improving the lives of others.
Well, my why at that time when I wanted to run for city council is I wanted to make San Jose, downtown San Jose, the mecca capital of entertainment of the world, and but that was the wrong why. I was like, to serve the public? What? I want to go cut deals and build high rises and expand and bring concentration. And
then you're a living example of the why. Right?
So interestingly enough, Well, great. We're going to segue and we're going to bring our other guests on board. So give us a quick second. All right, guys, we are back, and we're going to transition here. By the way, Ron, amazing. Thank you for sharing all the nuggets, and we just had a fun conversation. But we're really going to dive into the Fishbowl now, and we have our additional special guest, Guisselle.
Thank you.
Thank you for making the time as well. Thank you so much. I know that it's been in the works. Now, when I decided that I wanted to run for city council, I was just so frustrated with the way, Ron, you were already gone.
Yeah.
Or you were. It was your last year. You were. I opened up my place in 2004. And
my last year was 2006.
06. Okay, so you were already in transition modes, right? And
I was getting the boxes, as they say.
Yeah. So I opened up at the end of the 2004. So a year and I probably had just your last year. I was you were in office, and I was just so frustrated with just the way certain things were just happening. And I knew that because of transitions and all the different stuff. So I said, I'm going to run for city council because I'm going to make a change. And I'm not a nightclub owner anymore or an entertainment operator. I'm a nightclub politician. I even gave myself my own thing because I'm not doing entertainment anymore. I'm not creating. I'm actually it's a constant battle. At the time, we had a police chief that just kind of wasn't sharing the vision with nightlife, and it just whatever it is, what it is. So I remember when I decided to throw my name in the race, and I was like, I'm gonna be the sharpest dressed council member. I was silly. Like, it was just because I was creating this like, I don't know what I was creating. I was just a character, right? And like, if I can do entertainment and I can be successful at that, I can promote. I can raise money. I raised $1 million like nothing. I remember campaigning, and one of the first people that I talked to was Tony Arriola. And I went up to Tony with an introduction. I had known of him because of your administration, right. But I didn't know him personally. And one of his friends said, "Yeah, I'm going to introduce you. He'll give you a check." So I was like, "Oh man,
that was easy."
I'm like, "That was easy." I'm like, "I'm going." And literally, we met at this bar, at a wine bar, and first 5 minutes, hey Tony, how are you? And he kind of didn't rub me the right way in the beginning, right? And he says, "So what's your universe?" And I was like, "What the heck? Like, my universe? Like, what is he talking about? Like, I didn't understand the terminology." He goes, "What's your strategy?" And I said, "Oh, my strategy." I said, "Perfect." So then I light up. I get into character. I said, "I'm going to be like a B-52 bomber, and I'm going to carpet bomb the entire district with my flyers." Because I'm a promoter, right? And I'm going to be in your face, and I'm going to give you my message. And I mean, I had, and he looked at me, and he kind of did this look, and I was like, "So, can I count on your support?" Right? Because I thought that I had just sold him. He said, "No." I literally, after he said no, that my drink had just came out, and I was like, I'm wasting my time. I was told I got 30 minutes to be with somebody, and if I don't get a check within or some kind of commitment, bye-bye. So I said, "Hey, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks." Thanks. Like, but I gave him like the thanks, like, yeah. And I told his friend, I said, "Hey, dude, don't waste my time again. Next time, please, if you're and I was like, what a waste of my time. And that was it. Now, best lesson that I ever learned was the best thing that happened to me is losing the race. Because I got to learn a lot of things, one about myself, and I learned a lot about the people that are around me. And that's what I'm getting from reading. I mean, there's a lot of other nuggets here, and I'm definitely going to dive deeper into this because it really flushes out many things, business, personal life, and your own personal, your reflection of yourself. So that just, to me, was the best thing that ever happened. So this book, you should have put like a shark or something in here. Cause,
you know who the sharks are?
Yeah.
Everybody else watching you.
That's right.
Those are all the sharks.
Those are the ones in the bushes.
Yeah, I mean, those are, you got some in the bush, you got some sharks, you got some elephants, you got some tigers, you got all kinds of folks.
Lions and tigers. And
so let's dive into this.
Yes. Life in the Fishbowl.
Life in the Fishbowl. And before we go into this, I know, Guisselle, you've written another book, and you got a great story to share too, and we're gonna do a follow up on this one because I definitely want to share your story with the world as well. But give us a little brief, of your upbringing and how the hell did you get into politics?
I met him.
Yeah. All right.
Or actually, maybe it's because I was always in student government in school. So which I will fast forward to how we met, but
okay.
But I was born in Nicaragua.
Okay.
So aren't you from El Salvador?
Yeah, I'm Salvadorian. Yeah.
So
I was born here in the U.S., but my parents are from El Salvador. So
okay, well, I experienced a civil war in Nicaragua, so there you go.
Wow, you must have been very tiny, huh?
Well, actually, I was 5 or 6, and so Ron remembers that when I was in my 30s, I was having some flashbacks.
Oh wow!
And I remember telling Ron,
that's a form of PTSD then.
Well, yeah.
Okay, trauma.
But I had these stories. I had these flashbacks, and I remember asking my parents, "Is this true? How is this coming to mind? Is this true that we?" I remember mattresses at our windows, and at 4 a.m. my mom getting out to get water, and a sharpshooter, like almost shooting her at 4 a.m. as she's getting water, right? Those people in the bushes. So those are the sharpshooters. So I had a lot of those memories coming back in the 30s, in my 30s. But fortunately, though, I had a very happy childhood. I mean, we moved here when I was 7, when I was 8, in '82 after the Civil War. My parents, I always say that we had to have, government cheese for a while. We had to go eat some government cheese for a little while. My parents
There's no shame in government. I like government cheese. It was good.
Government cheese with tortillas. I remember making those quesadillas.
Quesadillas,
So my dad was the CEO of a manufacturing group in Nicaragua. My mom was an HR professional. So how we ended up in the U.S. is that my dad was targeted by the Sandinistas.
Oh, wow.
So there's a whole story in itself with that. I mean, just imagine a home invasion.
Yeah.
And my parents almost get killed that night. If it wasn't for God intervening and a drunk guy hitting a car in the neighborhood, and the guy with the gun got distracted, and my dad had to fight him.
Wow, that sounds like a movie now. We need to do a movie. A movie scene.
And we're next door, and we're all about to be killed, right? But again, the universe has a plan.
Right.
So soon thereafter, my
Gracias
parents...
a Dios, amen.
Yeah. So then after that, my mom and dad were like, okay, time to leave.
Yeah.
We can't do this. We can't see what happens after the Civil War.
Right.
So we immigrated, and my parents worked very hard. They built their own businesses.
Nice.
Very successful.
That's where the entrepreneurship comes in.
Yeah. So you can imagine, right?
Yeah.
The immigrants, they're entrepreneurs. My parents were very successful, and my brother and I, we always knew we had limitations.
Yeah.
But we never complained because we knew that what we had was all we needed, right? I mean, the sandwiches, you pack up the sandwiches for the weekend, getaway, or for the day, for the trip to San Francisco, whatever it was. You couldn't go to fancy restaurants. My brother couldn't get the Nintendo, but that was okay. So we had a very fortunate, childhood in that regard. But my brother and I were very fortunate. We grew up in the Eastside.
Okay.
Went to Yerba Buena High School.
All right.
Went to now, well, back then it was called junior. It was called Fair, middle school, which was a different place.
Yeah.
So we grew up in the heart of the East Side, but we're very proud of it, and we had good friends, right? A lot of people that come out of these schools and these neighborhoods are successful.
Absolutely.
And and sometimes we don't tend to remember that. So he and I went to Santa Clara University, and we had great experiences there. My brother's
You went from the East Side to the West Side,
Went to the West Side, and I'm still back in the East Side.
Yeah.
And so both in high school and in college, I was involved in student government. That was my thing.
Got it.
Without even knowing that I was really interested in government in some regard, it was always about serving.
Yes.
It was never about the position or anything else. It was always about the public service, right? Yeah. That was related, which really was helpful, because when Ron and I got together, I could come into the position of a spouse with someone who was in elected office because I had bought into the mission of public service.
There you go.
Which we talk about in the book, right?
Good.
It's your why doesn't need to be your why for you. The why of why you want to run also has to be a why for the family. And they're in it. You got to be in it, right? The candidate may get some of the glory, may get some of the not so glorious moments, but the family's right there.
Yeah.
You still feel it.
That's right.
You still get angry.
Yeah.
You still get, or you also celebrate.
Yeah.
Right.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, I remember many times when I would be quoted in the local newspaper, and one of my siblings would call me up and out of astonishment and say, "Did you really say that?"
Yeah. Yes, but that's out of context. They wrote it out of context.
Yeah,
I did
complete
say
the whole
that. You're
sentence.
right. But did you hear all the other great things that I said?
And that's something we talk about in the book, is the impact on your family, and recognizing these things up front, and talking with them before you make the jump.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of the things that was really interesting about the interviews was we started every interview with the same question. And that was, what do you know now that you wish you had known before you jumped in the fish tank? Mm-hmm. And we were always surprised at how open these people were with their experiences. And some of them very personal, some of them about their children and so forth. And that's why we felt we had to get this book published. There's just too much stuff in here that's good.
One of the things that I really liked about the book, and in the beginning, because I'm very slow reader, even though I've written 2 books. I'm an audio person.
Yeah.
When I drive, I like to listen. But when I started going through the book, I like how you broke down the chapters, all the descriptions.
Lessons?
Yes. So to me, actually, as I was going through the book, I started to see things that were like resonating. So they were almost like highlights to me. I was like, oh yeah, I've done that. Oh yeah, I know that. I can relate to some of the points that I've addressed. So to me, it's a very, you guys broke it down. So.
Well, first of all, so when I wrote my first book, Take Charge of Your Brand, I wrote it like a manual, right? Like
Yes.
I wanted someone to be able to get something out of it very quickly because you don't have a lot of time.
Right.
And so the same thing with Life in the Fishbowl is how do you now talk about managing negativity, knowing your why, understanding the difference between friends and allies. How do you write that, right?
Yeah.
In a way that is interesting. My philosophy is that that the universe gives us lessons.
That's right.
The classroom really. So the world, right, and our experiences is our classroom, and people are our lessons. and so how do you how do you write about this content that will sway to more of a negative versus a positive? Because there's a lot of because it talks about the challenges. The book is about the personal side of politics and exposing the challenges that no one talks to you about. I mean,
That's right.
Did anybody ever sit down with you and say, hey, Mauricio, you just decided to say yes to a campaign. Let me just give you a sense of some of the challenges that you may encounter just so you prepare.
Yeah, no, I had some great people, and I don't want to mention some names, but I've had some pretty good names that like encouraged me, like, oh, Mauricio, that's a great thing in my face. And then I find out when the other candidates jumped into the race that their endorsements and support went for them, and I was like, why didn't you just tell me the truth? I would have accepted the truth.
Yeah.
Than for you to like.
Well, and that's an aspect.
That actually hurts my feelings.
Of course it does. Well, and that's an aspect of politics, right?
Yeah.
That's one aspect of politics. The other side, though, is that none of those people that told you that they would support you or maybe even encourage you to run, never did they probably sit down with you and say, hey, now that you said yes, let me just share with you some things that that you're going to encounter. It's not a matter of when. It's just a matter of it's going to happen.
Yes.
It's you just don't know when.
Right.
So how do you prepare for that? Right. No one talks to you about those things.
Well, Ron, you're a good example of that. First Latino in a lot of different public settings, and city of San Jose, 3rd largest city. Right. So you got negativity. You're being shot at all times.
Well, one of the things that's always difficult, particularly for someone of minority background, is, the unfortunate reality, even here in San Jose, is while Latinos represent about 25 to 30% of the population, unfortunately, they don't represent 25 to 30% of the voting population.
That's right.
So, you have huge congregations of Latino populations and families in the East Valley area. Mm-hmm. But, you run for city council in that district. I mean, you can get elected with 3,500 votes. It's very, very small.
Silly.
So and
there's 100,000 people in that district.
Exactly.
Yeah. So 3,500 people. That's 3%.
Right.
Less than 10% of the vote.
Exactly.
Of the population.
So it's not an issue of being a citizen or not. There are plenty of citizens out there that are not registered to vote.
Absolutely.
And that still plagues our community. So when I go, start the campaign for mayor back in 1998, and you put together the strategy, you talk to your numbers guy, and he says, your opponent's going to win these city council districts, you're going to win these city council districts, and you got to fight over this one. This one's going to be the Mason-Dixon line, right? In that particular case, that particular election was Willow Glen. So, it turned out he was absolutely right. This guy knew his numbers like
he knew the universe.
He knew the universe.
Mayor. Yeah.
So luckily, we do very strategic kinds of things. We put our campaign headquarters in Willow Glen.
Yeah.
I walked precincts till
no B-52 bomber.
No B-52 bomber with the pamphlets, right?
My strategy. If I could do that, I would have littered all of my districts.
We were more like smart bombs, you know.
Strategic snipers.
Well, you only, in those kind of campaigns, you only knock on doors of registered voters.
Oh no, I knocked them all.
And
all of them. They didn't answer.
That makes no sense because you walk down a block, even in a place like Willow Glen. Let's say there are 15 homes on that block, right? Probably in Willow Glen, there may be as many as 10 or 12 people who are registered. The households are registered. Wow. You go to the east side of San Jose, that same 15-house block, maybe 5. So and what are the odds they're going to be there when you knock on their door? So it's just a lot of work.
Absolutely.
You really got to want to do this, John.
Well, I did want to do it. That's why I jumped into the fishbowl. I was like, nah, I'm going in, but I'm going to come in like a shark.
Yeah, exactly.
Me voy a comer a todos.
You didn't hear that. You didn't hear that background music. Dun, 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 dun.
No.
That was playing at the same time.
I just felt a little piranhas.
Yeah. So they ate him, is what I said.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. You both are talking strategy, right? Campaign strategy. Everybody wants to talk campaign strategy.
Right.
Everybody knows how to win a campaign. Everybody knows whether it's a B-52 bomber or the smart bombs. That's what you're.
Whatever.
But no one talks to you about what to expect personally, emotionally, how to prepare.
I don't think we're thinking about that.
No, you're not until you are now working 7 days a week. Yeah. You don't have.
Till you put one hand on the Bible and the other hand up in the air and take the oath of office.
Well, until your spouse is saying like, "Where are you?"
Yeah.
Until your kids are saying, "Where are you?" Until your family sees you quoted or misquoted, or they're feeling the negativity on social media where they're speaking ill about you. Right. The trolls are everywhere.
Yeah.
Until those things happen. No one thinks about that.
That's right.
Because no one sits down with you and says, "Hey, I'm going to endorse you or I'm going to help you, but let me just share with you some of these other things you're going to experience." Because that is what's going to help you be emotionally and mentally fit to endure what's coming.
Yes.
Mauricio, the concept for this book is owed by Guisselle, and I will give full credit to her skills in writing to getting these interviews onto a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Right? So where this all started was when I was mayor and we would go to various community events, right? Inevitably, someone's spouse would come up to Guisselle and say, "Can I buy you a cup of coffee?" Right? And it's usually an elected person's spouse. Sometimes it's a woman, most of the time it's a woman, but sometimes it would be a man. So they'd eventually have coffee. And what that coffee conversation came down to was that person would tell Guisselle, when my spouse decided to run for public office and got elected, I thought I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah. Oof,
I didn't have any idea what I was getting into.
Yeah.
Can you help me with this? And then that's where it kind of started. And then these conversations went over, and some of them even went over to her other book, which is about personal branding. Because one of the things that she had to work with and deal with, and it's true, I think, of a lot of spouses of elected officials, is you can very easily lose your personality, your brand, because you're the mayor's wife or you're the supervisor's husband or whatever. So that's when she began her personal work on her personal brand, and eventually led to writing her book.
And is that when so I'm learning something right now.
Yeah.
So your first book is about your brand. Is that kind of the inspiration? It's that I didn't read your first book, so I apologize for that. But I'm understanding
Shame,
that I know
you could have used it for that campaign.
I know. I haven't learned my lesson yet. See, I'm on the opposite side here because I'm single. I'm at the time successful. Like, Ron, it was so sick in my head. Like, it was crazy, right? Like, I'm thinking, like, I'm this young guy. I'm downtown living. I live in a high rise. I got a loft in Japantown. I'm thinking, I've even asked one of my advisors, what do you think they're going to say if I drive my Ferrari into the parking lot in the new city? I'm like, oh, they're going to, like, I'm thinking in my head, and then I had already thought of my office. Like, the office, I had seen the 18th floor, and I'm like, oh, my office has the patio. I'm like, oh, we'll be smoking cigars out here. Like, guys, I was crazy. Like, but I wanted it so bad. but for the wrong reasons.
You were into the trappings.
Yes,
Well,
100%.
Yeah, and
Why didn't you write this book back then?
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly.
You would have saved me a lot of headache. I had to rebuild my brand. I'm serious.
No, but it's true. So
I was into all of the traps.
Yeah.
Exactly. You had just a lot of twinkles in your eyes on like what it could be, right? So I wrote my first book and I started teaching personal branding because when we met, I was in my mid-20s and really just growing into my professional development and my personal development, and I didn't want to be known just as a mayor's wife. My favorite title for any of these for elected
Mayor's
officials.
Wife. That's just
well, no, it's not even that.
Not with your personality. This doesn't, right, Ron?
But that's how it is.
She should be the mayor.
Thank you.
First Latina.
There you go.
You never
should be
know.
running for
You
office.
heard it here.
Yeah, that's right. Mauricio Mejia live.
Watch the time. No, but I didn't want to be known just as a mayor's wife, right? So I had to figure out, okay, like
you had to create your own identity, your own brand.
Well, yeah, I had to learn how to manage it and then communicate it.
There you go.
Because if I didn't communicate it and if I wasn't intentional about that, right, and my behavior didn't also represent that, then people wouldn't believe me, right?
Yeah.
So that led me to teaching personal branding. So when these spouses would come up to me, it was a combination of advice. Sometimes it was on personal branding and how you manage your brand.
You were going home and saying, "What the hell did I get myself into?"
I was coaching a lot for free, or they were asking me for advice on how to just be a spouse with someone who's elected office. And at the same time, too, Ron was always giving advice. People would always come to Ron for advice. Yeah. Those three things mixed together, it was kind of like it was this little pot of frijoles that were just kind of simmering. And finally, the idea came to me.
Y le tiramos arroz para hacer un revuelto.
Un poquito de sausage para flavor. And so then I went to Ron and I said, I think this information needs to be shared.
Absolutely.
And the only way we can do that is by writing about it. But we don't want to just talk about our experience. It would be great to interview others.
That's right.
So because we know, and that will reaffirm that what people are asking us and what we know of is really universal. And this book is nonpartisan because it's all about the personal side of politics.
But when I went through this, I can also relate to this in my personal life and my business life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's interesting. You guys walk downstairs in the office. I would call that a fishbowl.
Yeah.
But I call it actually a bullpen. And everyone that's in those different units or suites is something that falls within our wheelhouse, right? And the way it's designed is you can walk in the middle of that room and you can actually talk to the entire room if you need to get everyone's attention.
Right.
So it's just interestingly, and just the fact that this can also relate to that, not just in politics. So the book covers a lot. Even like I said, even personal, it made me want to reflect in my own life and look at myself in the mirror and say, "Damn, Mauricio, you've come a long way, and you've survived some of those people that have shot you from the bushes."
Well, and you grew from that.
Absolutely.
Well, the other thing I want you to understand, Mauricio, don't feel like you're the only person that got caught up in the trappings.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
I've talked to a lot of people, including former elected officials,
Yeah.
who were out of office for a while and kept trying to get back in. And I said, what's driving this? And I was hoping that, there was work I didn't finish. I want to get that done because it's part of my life experience, right? No, you know what the answer was? I missed the power.
The power.
I missed being influential. And I'm thinking, you're never going to get reelected.
And thank goodness they haven't.
And they haven't.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. I agree. There's a lot of people that have kept trying, and I'm glad that they're not in there. And I believe that the next generation or the newer the people that want to get into that world and want to make the change because their why is a lot different. Those are the people that we want to see.
Well, if you want to do it now, you got to be committed because it's a different world. I mean, admittedly, I left office 18 years ago, right? The Wi-Fi was just starting to come in. Social media was just starting to come in. But you look at what's going on now, and in fact, when we were putting this book together, and Guisselle was doing most of the writing, I turned to her at one point and said, I'm concerned that people will read this book and think that we're trying to discourage them from seeking public office. No. And I said,
okay.
No, we want to do just the opposite. So we actually went back and surveyed all the people we interviewed and said, even with everything you shared with us and everything you didn't share with us that you've experienced, would you do it all over again? Would you jump back in? And 100% said yes. But what we're trying to do is make sure that when people do it now, they're going in with their eyes wide open.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's a different world today back from even when you left, because you don't need TV cameras. Everyone's got a camera now.
Yeah.
Everyone's on social media. And
there was just recently 2 city council members from Berkeley who resigned because they felt personally threatened by people who were against some decisions they had made on the city council. So these are real life things that are going on, but they can be managed. And again, it's about thinking these things through, talking them through with other people who have experienced them or experiencing them now. I mean, people are still serving in public office, and we need them more than ever in this country to serve in public office.
Well, and if I can add to that too, it's a lonely place. And whether you're and back to your last point about how this book can apply to different parts of to different people or different professions. I mean, yes, it applies to CEOs. It can apply. I mean, it applies to you, right? But primarily though, being an elected official and even being the family part of that elected official, it can be a very lonely experience, even though you're surrounded by people all the time,
right?
But they don't quite understand those challenges.
Right. Well, you're getting tugged at different strings,
exactly.
right? And some of those situations, like you said, or you mentioned, is you just said yes to. Do you know what you just said yes to?
Yeah.
And the yes is coming with, just.
Yeah, and the yes comes with all of this stuff that no one shares with you because no one wants to be vulnerable. No one can be vulnerable.
I hear that. I've been in rooms and I've heard conversations where there is no elected officials on the things that are expected of the elected officials, and sometimes you sit back and you're like, whoa, like this is real. First of all, and at the end of the day. In order to move things, sometimes things that need to get done, that will get done because that's just the way it is, right?
Well,
I don't know if I said that right or if it made sense, but I'm just looking at it from the private world and the one that wants to see progress, right? And I've always felt that politics or in the political world is like this big wheel that just moves really slow and nothing gets done. And I'm like, in the private world, we're just like this, right? And chinga, right? We're just like, and we're grinding. And when people make mistakes, they get cut. There's no room for error.
Or when you make mistakes, you're not in the fishbowl where everybody's looking at it or where it's going to be on social or in the paper or on TV or whatever it may be, right? So it can be a very lonely experience. So I think the message of the book is you're not alone.
Right.
These stories, you need to just know this in advance so that you can expect what's coming and help, and that hopefully will help you to survive and to thrive because now you know what's coming. And so you may still be lonely physically, but you're not lonely because this stuff is out there.
One of the other things that I would want to mention is that this book is not just for those who might be interested in public service.
Right. Oh no, I'm a businessman. I'm not interested in politics ever again. But I will dive deep into this even further now.
We hope that a lot of people read the book.
Yeah.
If for no better reason than to better understand what these people go through.
Yeah.
Who decide to give us their time to serve in public office. And unfortunately, we've gone through a period of time where, I value the fact that I started in public service when it was an honorable profession, when it was viewed as an honorable
different
profession.
Times.
Different times now. And I think we got to get back to that. we got to recognize that that this is important work. Democracy relies on a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And we talk about in the book how public service is a vocation. It should be seen as a vocation,
not a job.
Right.
Not a job.
Right. And some people look at it as, and you can clearly see it.
Mean,
and then when those that keep trying to come back, and I'm like, wait, how do you go from up to try to go backwards? And Ron, I got to say, I'm impressed because when you were done with public service, you were done.
Yep.
You were done. And there was chatter that you could have been the next governor.
Yep.
You could have gone so far. But when you were done, you made that decision.
Well, I think it goes back to the why. It goes back to your own personal value system.
Yes.
I found for me, and God bless those people who go to Sacramento and Washington, D.C. and serve, because that was not for me.
Okay.
I mean, my longest...
Everyone else thought it was for you, though.
Exactly. Well, and that's why you have to stop listening to the drum beat,
right?
So I just felt for me, there could be no better public service job than being a big city mayor.
Yeah.
And having the opportunity to guide and direct an entire city.
Yes.
I mean, that's phenomenal opportunity, and I'm just
that's like
continue to be so honored.
That's the general manager of a. If we look at the city as a business, right?
Yeah.
You're the CEO. Of the city.
$3 billion budget. I think there are probably 12 or 13,000 employees right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a big institution, and that's why it's important for the person at the top to have a clear understanding of what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
The city workforce, in the case of the mayor, the city workforce looks to that office for guidance.
Yeah.
We're
looking for leadership and vision. Yes.
Tell Mauricio the story about the city worker who told you at a State of the City.
Well, so just generally, I mean, there was, people always come up and talk to me, right, and just tell me how they felt. So I remember after one of the State of the Cities, someone in the elevator said to me, you know what, I always look forward to the mayor's State of the City speeches because it tells us where we're going to go in the following year.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
I look forward to your State of the City, but I never missed them. And interestingly enough, I had some people that were mentoring me in political, because I had political ambitions.
Sure,
right?
Of course you
But
did.
I'm like, this mayor's not. No, okay. I like what he says, but no, there's more. I'm gonna do more as a city council member. I'm gonna just carpet bomb the whole place and get my message out. So,
I love, again, I really appreciate your honesty about that. It's important because others can learn from that.
Absolutely.
Right? You sharing
what not
that.
to do. Yeah. No, absolutely. My intention, though I wanted it to be, it was a good intention. It's like they say, the surgery went well, but the patient died. And you're like, oh, what happened here? It was just, my execution was poor.
You just have a lesson to learn.
And speaking of poor execution, we have an example in the book, someone who just was so kind and willing to share all the mistakes he made, so that other people could learn from that,
As a candidate.
As a candidate.
Yeah.
And just, he got in late. He announced before he told his spouse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean,
Honey, I just read in the paper you're running for. Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
And so but those things happen. I mean, luckily they were willing to be interviewed for the book. But I knew of another case in Southern California of an old friend of mine who chose not to be interviewed for the book. And we did have some folks like that who weren't willing to kind of be vulnerable and put themselves out there.
I want to be part of part two.
This gentleman decided to run for the city council without telling his wife beforehand, announced. And unlike the example in the book where the spouse, after hitting him over the head with a chancla, decided to get involved. And
She must have been Latina.
Right. And to get behind the campaign, and fortunately he didn't win, as he said later. But this other gentleman in Southern California, he ran for city council, for his local city council, and she was not in. She didn't volunteer. She didn't do anything. And he shared with me privately that in the middle of the campaign, he was actually hoping to lose.
Wow.
Because he knew that if he won, it probably meant the end of their marriage. So, these are the kinds of stories that people are willing to share and we put out there. It's a really interesting process.
Interesting you just pointed that out, because I thought of somebody recently where you always saw him out and never saw her, and you would wonder
I saw that all the time.
Yeah.
Or I would see elected officials, at 11 o'clock at night at a city council meeting, looking at their watch like, I got to get home.
Yeah, now I'm in trouble.
Get this thing over.
I'm sleeping on the couch tonight.
Exactly.
Wow. But you know what? Those are choices.
Exactly.
And those are choices that we make. And when we decide and we commit, and that was part of my we decide to take action on that, and we do that. That's a commitment.
But for those couples, they didn't know this stuff, right?
Okay.
They just we're going to run for city council or a school board or whatever, and boom,
Yeah, there's a commitment to the yes,
right.
but you don't know what's behind
what
that
you're committing
yes,
to.
what you're committing to.
What's the job description?
And that's what no one talks to you about.
Yeah.
And that's why we wanted to share this in this book, because...
So when you ran for city council here in San Jose, did they give you a copy of the job description?
No.
Exactly.
No.
There is no job description, right? So it's not like applying for a job somewhere saying, honey, here's the job I'm applying at, Apple or Google or wherever. And he or she looks at it and says, yeah, it looks good. The hours are reasonable and blah, blah, blah.
Some travel included. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I thought I was going to go to council, and then I was going to have somebody run my nightclubs and my concerts and my bars, while I'm like, no, that's my second business. I did all the wrong things, but for me, honestly, it was the best thing that happened for me. It was the best thing, because again, I got to really find out who I was. I had Ryan Hubris, who's our
Ryan,
good.
Yeah.
He actually started knocking some sense into me. He goes, Mauricio. He looked at me and he was like, better you than me, right? I was like, oh, well, I don't know about that advice. He goes, the only thing I can tell you, Mauricio, is quiet the noise. And I didn't understand what quiet the noise was, because I was already in I was in the noise, right?
You were dropping bombs already.
Oh yeah, I was like, like, Ryan, you're giving me the wrong advice, because I'm listening to my way, and we're gonna do it my way, right? But that was advice that he gave me, and then the other gentleman that gave me advice was Ray Reese, who was a developer up here, and he says, Mauricio, he says, you would be more effective on the outside than on the inside. Yeah. And I didn't understand that until after, right? Because I'm like, why are you discouraged? Because I felt discouragement, right? Yeah. And the more that people said no to me, the more that I rebelled and said, no. Es que nadie me va a decir no. I know what my parents went through. I know what I've gone through. And no one's going to tell me no, because, and again, I would defer back to, if I can raise $1 million, if I can do this and I can do that, and
why doesn't it translate?
Right,
I can translate it.
I was caught in every booby trap, every trap in the life that I was living. Yeah, I was successful. Yeah, I had all the bells and whistles, all the toys, but I was not happy with myself. Yeah, I was dark. I was just.
Well, I think it goes back to one of the lessons, right? Like, what's your why in general?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be for a campaign, just in life.
So today, as a business owner, as a person that's involved in community and very well entrenched, I've learned that the more that I've served in my way of serving, right, and helping others as well, that to me is it must be the feeling that you feel or that you have felt, as it's just such a fulfillment to see the fruits bear from all the things that you planted.
Well, one of the things that I mentioned my dad earlier, and one of the other things he taught us in life was always have a job/career that makes you jump out of bed to go to work in the morning.
Yeah.
And when I look back at my long career, and I think to myself, of all those people who have miserable jobs, they just, bitch and holler about it, having to go to work and all that. I have never had that. I've been just so blessed that every opportunity that was put in front of me and that I earned worked out great. I mean, I think
Come on now, you had a few moments there.
Oh,
You
yeah.
had, okay,
Well,
all right.
The last 2 years of being mayor was a difficult time. There's no doubt about it.
But that was the politics.
But that was the politics. That wasn't the job.
Yeah.
You know, the jobs I always had were just, and even now, you know, with the foundation, the Hispanic Foundation of Silicon Valley, leading that organization for almost 15 years, I feel very blessed.
You are blessed
to have had all these opportunities, and even when I was in the private sector, I found ways to work on the cause.
Absolutely,
you know, to do things that I found helpful to families and students and so forth. And then now it's just like, you know, every day is like like a rainbow. You know, it's just fantastic.
Well, and you found brand purpose. You know, Mauricio. So
Yeah.
that's very important, because that's what I always talk about. And so when you're building your personal brand, you gotta understand what that purpose is. And volunteering, mentoring, helping others helps us with our own purpose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've when I look back, again, there's what I can relate to, and the self-reflection that I've had is that I know that the thousands of people that I've helped, I've given them the vehicle. I've helped in doing my part, and as long as they do their part, all the roofs that I've put over people's heads, all the food on people's tables, the kids, the children. If anything, the most impactful thing that has affected me is just the children, right?
Yeah.
I think that to me is where it hits the heart.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for doing this, and for also collaborating and taking the risk and putting this together, because I can't even imagine. There's got to be a lot of love and a lot of surprises, right? And at the same time, be like, wow, it's so beautiful to see you two guys together in this setting, and just have the being able to have the conversation that we're having today.
Well, this book was so important. We felt that it had to survive the pandemic, and it had to survive our divorce. It was the information here, again, because we are so committed to public service, that we don't want to see this profession die, you know, and it's going to die unless we get more and more young people engaged.
Yeah. And it's, again, you said it and brought it up, to see the post of the after the divorce. It's to me, I just want to say thank you guys for having the courage.
Maybe that's our third book is, okay, so how do you collaborate, and how are you friends after divorce? Because we do get this question asked a lot. But the book, so one, we have mutual respect. Two, we have affection.
Yeah.
We were together for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I feel like, so we may not have had kids, but I feel like our legacy during our time together was our work in the community.
Absolutely.
My support of him in his work in the communie, and his support of me in my work.
Yeah,
right?
and it's beautiful. I want to just add that word. It's beautiful to see that, because the world that you both have been exposed to, it's a nasty world.
Yeah.
And I can, as much as there's going to be a lot of positivity in your face, woo! I don't even want to imagine all the people in the bushes just.
I mean, there's a few of them that we know are, that we know of already that have written.
And you know how you kill them? You kill them
there.
with kindness.
Exactly.
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you.
And that's what we've done for
Step in front of this bus for me.
But so the book is
Yes.
really the product
That's right.
of our time together and our legacy. And so
I'll be
we
honest,
wanted to share.
that was the first impression that I got.
Yeah.
It was what a beautiful collaboration between two people that today I still see publicly out. And again, the fact that you guys were able to come together and collaborate. So since December, how are things been with it? Are we going to go on speaking tours here? What's the deal here?
That's
What's
what we
happening?
want. That's
I'll
what
be
we
the
want.
opening act. Anyhow, I want to thank you guys again. We can keep going. And Guisselle, we actually are going to do just with you. I want to do a deep dive because I believe that the influence that you have in this valley and the relationships that you've established, not only with Ron, but on your own. I think we need to share that because it's important in this valley that we also have strong women leaders and you're already doing it. All we need to do is just get it out there, right? And we need to make people aware of that because it's important. You definitely need to share your story. And that's why I believe that you got to continue to write so that people can read about your story, and then obviously eventually maybe do an audiobook so that way people like us, when we drive, we just listen, and then when we get questions.
We are going to be eventually doing an audiobook for this book.
Yeah.
So remember, folks, Life in the Fishbowl.
Yes.
Get it on Amazon.
And is that the only place we can get the book?
And also some bookstores.
Some
too.
bookstores.
Okay.
But the quickest will be Amazon.
Okay.
So you can visit my website at GiselleNuñez.com, and there's videos there, and it talks about that book and also my other book as well.
All right, Ron, thank you.
Thank you.
We could have gone on for hours too. I want to continue to share your story because it's important. San Jose needed you. Mm-hmm. They experienced you. You've planted a lot of seeds that are now you're seeing them grow, and you're seeing even the current mayor right now taking pages out of your book, your playbook, that's making him successful at what he's doing. And let's hope, right, during these times, that he can become a successful leader, because right now, San Jose and the Valley, the entire world needs good leadership right now.
Absolutely.
Because right now, it's like we just finished getting the world correcting it back up, and all of a sudden it just got back on its head again. And it's like, what the heck? So anyhow, I want to thank you guys again. Thank you, everyone.
Mauricio.
Thank you for watching Mauricio Mejia Live here, downtown San Jose, Studio B, heart of the Silicon Valley, global tech capital of the world. Let's go.
Mauricio Mejia Live.